All right, folks, welcome back. Thank you for bearing with us through all of these technical foibles and so on. But it will be well worth the wait because we have the finals here at SCG Cincinnati with Corey Baumeister's team, the first seeds after the Swiss, putting on a dominant performance, even with their third not showing up until round two, and looking to take down the whole thing here against. We have Team Weinberg on the other side. They've been waiting around for quite a while after convincingly winning their semifinals, waiting to see who their opponents would be. They have an answer. We have some magic for you. We're going to cut to that as soon as we can here to see which of these two very distinguished teams is going to be your champions here this weekend.
Yeah, should be a great match. We'll have here just to catch people up is we'll have the Just Kai control deck that we watched earlier against Jerry's take on Demir Death Shadow. In the modern seat, we'll have Rakdos Scam against Just Kai Breach. Historically, kind of a tough matchup for Breach, but I think that it's unclear if that's still true with the addition of the One Ring being pretty significant. And then we'll have Rakdos Sacrifice against Mono Green, kind of the most classic Pioneer match of our times. So yeah, that will be how this finals is going to look.
Yeah, we're going to start with Corey here in the modern seat. I'm going to see if we have a chance to watch Noah in action in Legacy as well. But for now, we have Corey Baumeister against Ben Weinberg. Again, a matchup that you would expect to see down the home stretch of a SCG Invitational back in 2016, 2017. Grizzled veterans, both of them, still at it, still have what it takes. And we're going to see if Corey can get yet another W on the board for this Just Like Breach check. And if he does, he'll make even more doubters into believers, I think.
All right. And so, okay. Let's talk a little bit while we get going here about the Rakdos Scam against Just Kai Breach matchup, shall we? So this is a matchup where what the kind of Rakdos Scam deck is going to do is try to sort of pick apart Breach's various synergies, leave them with an awkward mix of pieces, a grinding station and a Mox Amber with no Breach in sight, kill your Ragavan, and then handle your graveyard with Voidwalker so Emery doesn't work. Basically just do everything they can to sort of force the Just Kai Breach deck to end up with the wrong piece of their deck. And a key element in doing this is going to be the Blood Moon, since the Rakdos Scam deck doesn't really have another clean answer to Saga, and if Saga gets going, the Breach deck is in a great spot.
And there are some Saga decks where the Saga is pretty incidental, the constructs are fairly small. In this deck, those Sagas get pretty big, pretty quick, and the things that the Saga is finding are relevant as well. So we have the Shadow Spears in the sideboard, which is not something you see too often. But even in a game one scenario, those constructs are going to be a big game. And like you said, this Breach deck has so much going on that in one sense it's a weakness because if they can pick apart the thing they care about, you're left with this pretty disjointed hand otherwise. On the other hand, it makes it hard to know exactly what to attack, what to Thoughtseize, what to remove. And at any time, you can top deck a Breach or an Iteration or a One Ring and really put ahead in the game.
But all right, it looks like Corey has dashed a Ragavan on 2 into Ben Weinberg's Tapland, which makes perfect sense, and is going to hit a lucky Thoughtseize off Ben's deck. Ben has kept a pretty anemic series of cards here, a Scam Piece, a Terminate, a Bowmaster, and 4 lands, and that hand is honestly not great to start with and pretty horrible into this Thoughtseize. Okay. Oh. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so Ragavan doing its usual dance here. Ben just passing back after playing Blackleaf Cliffs for the turn. There we go.
Yeah. So okay. Not great for Ben Weinberg that he's now lost his Bowmaster and is being left with just a Scam element and a Terminate. I sort of wonder if he should have maybe tried to bluff a removal spell there with an untapped land on one, just to make it so that Corey can't dash that wrong one with impunity, but maybe that's a fool's errand, I'm not sure.
Would you still just dash Ragavan in the face of that?
Well, it sort of depends on the exact mixture of Corey's hand, right? Like, certainly you do that over doing nothing, but maybe into the face of untapped mana, you'd, for example, commit a grinding station instead. Maybe you'd like consider playing a saga and getting that going. I basically think it's like less obvious. You're making it really easy on Corey, but maybe you still would enough of a time that it's like not worth the cost. I'm not too sure. Just something interesting I wanted to kind of call attention to. And interestingly, wait, is Corey not dashing his Ragavan again into the face of Terminate? He's just like, okay, I know you have this removal spell. I have this Ragavan. I'm just gonna force you to hold up all this mana, but not commit my Rog. If so, I think that's pretty interesting and maybe right on his part.
Yeah, it's now in the face of a possible Bowmasters as well, which maybe changes that calculation a little bit. So Ben Bernberg finally on the board here with Seasoned Pyromancer, pondering exactly what to discard here. I think it is important for Ben to get on the board and start being proactive because Corey has so many of these big draws in his deck that as the game goes on, I think that just really favors Corey over time. So we want to try and put Corey to the test a little bit. Unholy Heat going to trade with some fraction of the Pyromancer here, and this is a big turn. If Corey has the One Ring would be perfect, right? But even something like an iteration to pull ahead would be nice.
Yeah, and I definitely think what you just said is correct. Prior to the One Ring, I thought inevitability in this matchup was pretty complicated. Like both decks had various tools to go late, and it was sort of unclear who was really favored as the game went long. But with the One Ring, I think that all uncertainty's out the window. Now the Breach Digers has so many haymakers that Scam definitely needs to get the game over with. Because, I mean, look, you see it happening right now. Ben has no way in his deck to remove this ring. It is not possible. So now that the ring has come down, all Ben can do is kill Corey before he draws enough cards to win the game. And that is possible. The Scam deck is certainly capable of some pretty quick clocks, but I don't know if this is the board to do it.
I wouldn't bank on it, no. And the ring's protection, even if Ben had more than just two measly 1/1s, the fact that you would get an entire turn's worth of uh, life gain, damage prevention, effectively, makes it so much easier to actually leverage all of those cards properly. And now, a lot of Ben's cards as well don't work through that protection shield. If Ben had a grief, let's say, but you can't grief away the underworld breach that's left there or whatever, because that just doesn't work this turn. And by the time it does, Corey's seen 3 new cards.
Yeah, very much agreed. Um, I mean, the ring is obviously the reason why kind of when the format first came out, people were calling for the death of Scam. People were saying that the deck was no longer playable, that this effect was too powerful and was going to really put a damper on the deck. Now it turns out that isn't really so much the case, but I think a lot of that is because if Bowmaster's in play, or if you preempt the ring with the Thoughtseize, you're fine. If the ring actually hits the table and you're Bowmasterless, you're still in enormous trouble. And Corey's just keeping the cards coming with an iteration here. Uh, it's possible that having iteration in this spot when he's already drawing so many cards with the ring is not exactly what he wants. Corey would obviously love to kind of cheaply exchange cards or get some sort of proactivity going. But on the other hand, it's another 2-for-1. Can't complain too much. We'll probably find some sort of good play for this turn.
If Ben does have Bowmaster, then the game gets interesting. You have to think it would have been used in response to that second ring activation, so the coast is clear in that sense. Otherwise, the only thing Corey really has to worry about is if he really bricks off on all of these extra cards and ends up dying to ring plus attack somehow, but that seems pretty remote.
Yeah, I don't think that's too likely. Obviously, nothing's impossible, but it just seems like Corey's in a commanding position. And okay, it looks like he's going to be opting to cast this Teferi this turn off the iteration. And okay, with the Teferi, I think the question is, do you want to bounce the ring? Because you certainly can. It's not unreasonable. We'll let you get another free fog turn and kind of reset the damage. But on the other hand, it will reduce the number of cards you're drawing next turn from 3 to 1. and maybe you'd rather draw more cards first and then re-ring or handle it in some other way at a later point. Hard to say. What do you prefer, Dom?
You could maybe split the difference and tick up to Fairy this turn with the intention of either Ben attacks it and you're saving 2 damage that way, or next turn you can draw 3, bounce the ring, then get the protection, and just have it around as a more flexible card. Can shut off some of those scam lines as well. So yeah, I think I like Corey's line here.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me because I do think that often the kind of when the ring gets to 3 cards is when it becomes really like I don't know what their phrasing is. It's like concession territory. It's like when
Yes.
it draws the first 2 cards, you're like, okay, like I'm still okay. I could get out of this. And then if it draws the 3 cards, you're like, well, I am done. Um, and okay, Ben getting a fury off this, which is maybe gonna punish this line from Corey, because that can take out the Teferi, and then Corey won't have a guaranteed way to re-ring. Although with all the cards he's seen, it's pretty oh no, he's opting for what I just said. Never mind.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I think what we saw there is Ben White was deciding which one to get, maybe consulting with teammates, like up the 2 options he's considering and saying, hey, like which of these you think I should get. Eventually decides to go with Bowmasters, leave the Fury in the graveyard. Makes perfect sense. Hmm.
So what that means is Teferi's going to live, but now Ben has a choice of do you take Teferi below 2 so that it can't bounce the ring? But it's a tough choice, right? Because if you're doing that, you're taking away pressure that could be going upstairs, which is why Corey would care about bouncing his ring in the first place. So it's tricky. So yeah, it looks like
It looks like Ben has chosen to completely remove the Teferi. To not just hit it for 4, but just to completely kill it.
okay,
Which
okay.
is interesting. I don't think it's obviously what I would have done. I might have been tempted to hit Corey with the Ragavan and just like hit the Teferi for 3, but I admit that risks the Teferi at some point bouncing the ring. And I sort of think Ben's outs here involve Corey kind of bricking on a way to like re-ring for a while. And in any scenario like that, the Teferi living for a bit and getting that bounce off is breaking. Maybe this is too conservative, but I do see the logic.
Yeah, it makes sense, I think. There is also the possibility of the Saga digging up Haywire Might to exile your own ring. He's missing the green source currently, so we need to find Fetch Land or the Springleaf Drum. And yeah, Corey now gets to draw 3 cards safely, not going to get tagged by Bowmaster. And so any of Ring, Grinding Station, few other combinations of cards would work here. So leading off with Moxamber, and now Emery, I believe.
Well,
There we
don't
go.
forget, yeah, there's still a chance that Ben Wember could be dead at any moment here, right? Like, I'm not saying Corey is lethal right now, but he's not far off, right? In fact, I think if Corey had Grinding Station plus Breach, Ben would literally be dead right now.
Yes.
Now, admittedly, against scams specifically, it is common for Breach decks to kind of board out combo pieces, and it's possible that throughout this game on his like iterations and whatnot, Corey has valued the combo lower because it's usually not what the scam matchup is like about. But he's drawn a million cards, he still might just have it. We're about to find out, I think. Mm, 1 red mana probably means Ben Weinberg gets to live to fight another day, would be my guess.
Yes. Although that day will not be especially pleasant, I think.
Yeah, it's sort of like the I hate Mondays sort of day. You're like, yeah, I mean I'm alive, but
So Ben Weinberg is Garfield, is what you're saying.
yeah, I am saying Ben Feingold is Garfield in this situation.
Okay. We can quote you on that. So Ragavan joins the fray just as I think it's just going to jump in front of a 1/1 here, and that's a perfectly fine use for it. And now, actually, we have the line I mentioned rolled up of Lightest Giant can fetch Breeding Pool, and then Saga can fetch Haywire Might, and then the problem has taken care of itself. We even gain 2 life out of that bargain as well.
Yeah, and also don't forget Corey gets an opportunity on the way out of this ring. He will go down to 7, which is a little precarious, but I just imagine he'll still be able to find a way out of this. I mean, I don't know what's in his hand, but he has about a jillion cards and none of them are the ring. So it's hard to imagine it's going too badly for him.
He also can make 2 constructs with the Saga on its way out. Those by themselves will be bigger than anything on Ben's side of the board. Emery can maybe get to work. So I am not too worried about Corey's situation here. I think he'll figure it out.
To be fair, if there were a motto of the Breach deck, I feel like it would be, I don't know, figure it out.
It'll take care of itself.
Just a lot of the games are like, well, you have all these disparate pieces. They kind of configure themselves in whatever way your draw ends up being. And you don't really have a precise plan of how the game will play out. You just sort of do your thing. And then, I don't know, the pieces fall where they may. To be honest, I think it's kind of interesting how successful the Breach Cabal has been as of late, by which I'm mostly referring to Jesse and Corey, just because one would think that a scam-infested metagame would be kind of unpleasant for Breach historically. It's been quite a problematic matchup. I wonder if the Ring has just swung that matchup so far that now Breach is just actively good against it. I'm not too sure, though.
I could believe that. Bowmasters is a nuisance from the other side, but I think the Ring weighs a lot more heavily in the other direction there.
Yeah, I'm just kind of. I think it's hard to kind of explain the pretty incredible success of these Breach players, given how popular and successful Scam has been. Unless you think the matchup is flipped, but I feel like I'm almost forced to believe that in the wake of how much they're winning. In fields that I just think Scam is everywhere.
Some amount of it, I think, is just how much scam are they actually facing versus just the broad sweep of what goes on in Modern. And then there's also, Corey is going to be one of the best players in any tournament he shows up to. So there's this age-old question with deck specialists of Corey's caliber, right? Of if Corey was just putting this amount of time into scam or living end or generic 4-color creativity, whatever the choice may be, would he be having the same results?
Yeah, that's fair. The answer might be yes. So wait a minute, I'm a little bit confused about what's going on here. Corey didn't break his fetch in the end step, isn't that right? Because we're now fetching off the Urza Saga.
Yeah, he may have drawn the strand or the breeding pool, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that's why we end up here, because he doesn't have another source of green mana, which is kind of all he's ever wanted is green right now. But so that's what I imagine. Oh, there is another possibility. The other possibility
well, then.
is okay. So is Ben just dead? It's interesting. He's gone for play the Breach, then draw 4. I don't exactly understand why he played the Breach first if he was going to draw 4.
So this lets him, if Ben has another Bowmaster, he can bolt in response to the Ring activation still.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it shuts off that possibility, and then we haven't seen a grinding station yet. It's been pretty elusive. Even if this is just a fair breach, though, I mean that's going to put. I think Corey is already far ahead, but going to put him so far ahead that that he can close from here. We also have the Teferi in the graveyard. So worst case, we bolt 2 things on Ben's side. We Teferi, we bounce our Ring. Pretty good turn. No complaints.
Yeah, but I just imagine that, like, given that Corey's going for this, he has something better than that.
Yeah. Well, now you see the cute trick of Emery, Legend Draw looping each other. So that lets you effectively pay a blue mana to mill 4 cards. You're exiling 3, but if you're on the hunt for a specific thing, well, you pay blue for 4 looks at that thing. That's a pretty good draw spell if I've ever seen one.
Yes, and in fact, there's actually a non-deterministic Breach loop that is possible, which is that if you have 2 Emerys and 2 Mox Ambers and a Breach, you can repeatedly Mox Amber for mana, Emery, re-Emery, Mox Amber for mana again. And this, like, consumes your graveyard slowly, but lets you look at a lot of cards in the process. And you can use that loop to like, from this spot with a graveyard this big, like, I bet that loop would just be lethal. Now, Corey does need to find the second Mox Amber, but, maybe he has that in hand, or maybe he's just willing to kind of risk it. The worst case here isn't that bad, because at the end of all this, he can always flashback a Ring, right? Which will just give him protection from everything.
Yeah, lots of ways to eat out Reese's, as the kids say. And this is where Ben maybe just letting Corey go through the motions and turning his attention to the matches on either side of him. If he can give some input there while Corey is taking many, many game actions.
Yeah. Well, again, so I think Corey did find the second Mox number there, if unless I'm mistaken. So I think that he is now able to execute the non-deterministic loop, which, again, it is possible to miss, but with a graveyard this big, is probably exceptionally unlikely. Because to be clear, all he needs is a grinding station here. A grinding station is,
and there it is.
Yep.
And now a loop is being demonstrated. Ben can finally scoop up his cards, and Corey Baumeister will be up a game, looking to cap off this dominant run here in SCG Cincinnati. We'll see if we can check in on Noah Walker versus Marshall Arthurs over there in the Legacy seat, get a glimpse of those two excellent players, and Marshall's beautiful deck in particular. He's someone who, if you follow him on Twitter, can often be seen posting fully foiled out versions of decks worth God knows how many tens of thousands of dollars there. Yes.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. So we're going to see if we can switch to that match. Because of how we had to restart the camera setup, it is going to be a little blurrier than usual. So hopefully still able to watch and follow easily, but bear with us on that.
Yeah, our apologies for the technical problems. We assure you that this has nothing to do with any things that we can easily change. All right, slight change of plan. We might be staying with the modern match a bit, and just watching more of the Jeskai breach against Rakdos Scam. Personally, I really can't complain about that. I think it's generally a fascinating matchup, and I'd love to see more of it.
Yeah, and if you have an interest in playing Breach yourself in the near future, well, this is maybe the most important matchup in the hands of the most accomplished Breach player out there. So hard to draw it up any better than that.
Wait, would you say it's the most accomplished Breach player, or the second most accomplished Breach player, Dom?
Well, after yourself, of course, Andrew. Yes, we wouldn't want to take sides there. But it's also not what you were saying.
Oh man.
You might not be the most accomplished at playing Breach, but you may just be the most accomplished player.
Well, maybe, but I really think that although I like Breach and I do play it occasionally, it's probably not what I'm most known for when it comes to Modern. But yeah, regardless, all right. So let's look a little bit. Let's look a little bit at these sideboards. So commonly, the Breach deck in this matchup against Rakdos Scam will actually board pretty far down on the combo. It's common to go to like one grinding station, like shave on Emery. Shaving the fourth Breach is not unheard of. And you're kind of just trying to board into as fair deck as possible. So, for example, I imagine Corey will bring in these prismatic endings, these Furies, maybe the Shadow Spear. I've even seen maybe this Teferi. I've even seen the Wear Tear come in before, but it does depend on what cards you think that they will bring in. For example, if they have a bunch of artifacts like Hearse and whatnot, then you might want Wear Tear. If they're on just Blood Moons, probably not.
Yeah, I would very much expect Shadow Spear, the Furies to come in. Prismatic Ending is a little hit or miss, right? But if you just want a little bit more generic interaction, then that makes sense. You can shave away at some of the worst interaction in the main deck, some of the combo pieces as well. On the Rakdos side, you then have this weird dance of, well, how much do you try and target some of the combo components and the graveyard stuff, and how much do you just try and win the fair game that it sounds like your opponent is trying to win as well? So from Ben's side, I'd expect the Shieldred to come in out of the sideboard. A card like Croxer is pretty bad if the opponent's racing towards a combo, but pretty good if they're just trying to grind you out. Entity Explosives potentially as a way of cleaning up construct tokens and also just boards full of stuff, and you get to decide what that stuff is. Nile Spellbomb, I think, is pretty nice card here. Just shots off Delirium can harass Emery, breach, that kind of thing, and also just cycles itself on the way out, so the cost is pretty low. And then you can make an argument for stuff like Fable as well. So a lot of stuff there, and then how many blood moons do you want? I think is an interesting question. How many of the scam effects, removal spells? So really, everything is up in the air on both sides in Breach versus a lot of these decks in the way that it isn't elsewhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I do think you have to be careful on the scam side of like, changing the formula sort of too much. Just like your deck isn't fundamentally poorly set up in this matchup, and none of your sideboard cards are like absolute slam dunks. So I don't think you want to go overboard just because, well, I think a lot of your main deck elements are pretty good. Like, in some sense, I think the harder decision on the scam side is figuring out what to board out versus exactly what to board in. Like, for example, maybe you can cut Fury because if the raw ones are getting dashed, they don't have that. It's like not always that great. But I don't know, killing Emery is pretty nice. They're running in their own Furies, and Fury is a pretty good answer to opposing Fury. Sometimes those raw ones will end up getting hard cast and be picked off, and you also might finish off a low loyalty to Fairy here or there. Um, so it's just not clear exactly what's bad. Mm-mm. Also, do you have any interest in Chalice the Void on the scam side? That's what I was wondering about because it does hard stop the combo and disrupt some of their fear pieces. For example, Emery does not function very well under a Chalice of the Void. It cannot get back the Mishra's Bauble, which is primarily what it does. Sure, you can still get back a Grinding Station or maybe a One Ring if you have a ton of mana and a ring is dead, but it's pretty bad still.
It is interesting. I think I wouldn't, just because if you warp your deck to that extent, then you get to the point where they don't need to unfair breach anymore because their fair breach is just going to beat you in this hobbled game that you've created for both of you. And also, if they have an answer to it in their deck, well, you get to turn 7 and they breach and they get back to the fairy, bounce your chalice, and then it's not actually doing its intended job there. So I'd say clear of that. I think just stick with explosive, spellbomb, shieldred, and then could take or leave some of the others.
That's that's pretty reasonable, I think. And I do like, with regards to Nihil Spellbomb specifically, that it's a good way to handle the combo, disrupt some of the synergies like Emery, but also, just draws a card. So it's never going to hurt you that much. You can always change something else. And often you will be able to disrupt some of their elements while getting card advantage, which is exactly where you want to be. Um, but we'll see exactly how Benoit.
So we can confirm that actually Stark Green has been overthrown. David beat Goliath over in Pioneer. Rado Sacrifice taking down that matchup, which I think is closer than advertised. It's not as free as I think a lot of people like to say. But big win on the board there for Team Weinberg. Just need one of the other two. Down a game here in Modern, so Corey looking to even it up, and then could all come down to Legacy as a decider.
Yeah, and I will say on the topic of Sack versus Green, most people, I think, have historically said, "Oh, Green crushes Sack," or "It's too free," or something like that. But I think in reality, it's somewhere in the 55 to 60% range for Green. Nothing crazy, very losable. Even if you'd rather be on the Green side.
Yeah, now that all of the sack lists are main decking Thoughtseize, which now that they're doing it, it seems almost crazy that that was ever not the standard. But now that they have, that card can be pretty annoying. And then, sometimes just Rakdos stuff happens. The sacrifice deck is pretty impressive, I think. So if it does its thing, it can be tough to beat. And it looks like Corey is oddly motionless for him as we get into game 2 here. There we go. Thoughtseize is resolving. So Corey doesn't have much to focus on. And you see a hand which is, it could very easily be just a hand from the Fair Breach deck, right? Kind of more resembling Is It Murktide than some weird combo deck.
Yeah, and I think what Ben Weinberg chooses to take here will kind of communicate something about his hand. For example, if he doesn't have any sort of gray arcade elements here, I assume he'd be inclined to take the breach. On the other hand, if he does have the Hill Spellbomb or something along those lines, then maybe he just lets the breach sit around and instead tries to clear the way for his first threat. But it does look
Yeah,
like he ends up going with the breach.
It's a little tougher because with two removal spells there, you always have to leave him with one. So if you have, let's say, a Doughty Voidwalker, you know that's going to die even if you take a removal spell. If you have two Voidwalkers or like several threats lined up, maybe that's the route to take. But I think Breach is the most generically powerful card, and yeah, taking it here makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just can imagine like I think probably given that Ben sees that hand, he takes breach most of the time. I just can sort of imagine configurations where he wouldn't take it, which would be pretty interesting, but does not end up happening. And we will see Corey pulling the scry trick on his Mishra's Bauble, using it in combination with the fetch land to essentially take a look and then say yes or no. Corey
Yeah,
would
this deck,
love to see a threat here. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I say this deck really gets a lot of mileage out of its Mistress Bauble. So you have the usual small synergies of build your own up to the fetch land, or you see what you would take with a Ragavan, and you bring it back with Emery and fuels Delirium and so on. But at the end of the day, it is also just a combo piece as well. So you get to use every part of the proverbial buffalo.
All right, it looks like Corey's picked up his grinding breach here. That's pretty unfortunate. As I mentioned before, you usually leave in one grinding station in this matchup just because you want to be able to combo, but you would prefer it to never enter your hand. Like you'd prefer to always hit it off Emery's or otherwise mill to it once you start comboing, but never naturally draw it. Obviously, it has some utility, and there's a few things you can do with it, but a great spot for Corey, especially because I think I saw a Pyromancer in Ben's hand. So his plan here might be strip Corey's hand down to nothing, play a Pyro, and take over from there.
Yeah, Nile Spellbomb, good insurance against a top deck breach, but also any Delirium stuff that might come down as well. The grinding station, it ends up in that class of cards that I think Thassa's Oracle is in too, where you need it in your deck. That's kind of the cost of doing business, but you don't really want to see it most of the time. Even Oracle here, though, sometimes, 1/3 blocker, Omen Speaker against the Ragavan deck can do something. But yeah, Station is just what it is.
Yeah, and there are some matchups where naturally drawing station gives you access to some really fast combo kills. For example, you can like kill your opponent on turn 3 or something like that with if you have access to a naturally drawn station. But this match is just not really about that. Like you're gonna get thought seized a bunch, they're gonna take your breach pretty frequently. It's just not very likely the game plays out in such a way that station ends up being good, and therefore you'd almost never rather draw it. All right.
There is a very lonely shadow space. So this is what we flagged up of the breach deck has a lot of these moving parts, and if those aren't moving, then they feel pretty awkward by themselves. So grinding station and shadow space is not a match made in heaven necessarily.
And I mean, what you're seeing here is why historically Scam has lined up well against Breach. Just that Breach has enough things going on and is kind of disparate enough that Scam can usually find some way to pick it to pieces, and the pieces do not impress. However, Ben will need to get some sort of plot going, and I think Corey has at least one more removal spell in hand, so this Voidwalker, I would guess, is not long for this world. He's really thinking about whether or not to kill it, or maybe which way to kill it.
Yeah, there might not be a reason to kill it now, right?
You're saying you would just like kind of untap a lot of your removal and just like kind of see how your hand develops, if that makes sense.
Well, let's say Ben has a Feign Death effect. Let's say you kind of want to force the issue at that point on Ben's next upkeep. And depending on what you draw, you might decide if you draw another removal spell, maybe that one is a cleaner answer. Or if Corey drew Teferi, let's say, you could Teferi bounce the Voidwalker and then push that issue down the line for another turn or two.
That makes sense. Yeah, the kind of threat of Feign Death effect has got to be looming on Corey's mind, and almost certainly impacts kind of the timing of their removal.
Saga is an excellent top deck there, though. Unless there's a timely Blood Moon from Ben's side, then that Saga by itself can take over the game. And that's what Saga is so adept at doing. So you look at decks like Hammer, Amulet, even the Jeskai Breach deck. All of these decks which have a bunch of cards and they're trying to do a bunch of specific things. And if that's off the table, well, sometimes you just make some constructs and you bash them to death. It's a pretty reasonable plan.
Yeah, I've often said about the Breach versus Scam matchup that Saga is both the best card in the Breach deck and the worst card in the Breach deck because, well, if they control Blood Moon, it's a literal blank. It does absolutely nothing. But if they don't, it is incredible. It
Yeah.
absolutely takes over the game, and I don't know that Ben has a Blood Moon here. This might end up occurring.
Yeah. So Corey casts Emery, sends 4 cards directly to the exile. Do not pass go. Do not collect £200. And now I guess the Emery next turn, there is a bauble that was there pre Voidwalker, so he can force Ben to burn the spell bomb now and then free up his graveyard for future stuff.
Well, wait a minute, Dom. I think there's a Fury among the milled cards.
I
So
see.
I
Hmm.
think that what might end up happening here is that the Voidwalker might cast Corey's Milled Fury and take out the Emery that way. Now, Ben doesn't have to do that. Maybe he'd prefer to keep the hate piece in play to continue to disrupt Corey, but I'd be pretty tempted by the fast clock plus removal.
Which now means Corey has to use the removal spell on the Voidwalker now so that it can't sacrifice on the upkeep and keep that going.
Yes. I do suspect that Corey will therefore fire off his real spell main phase. Uh, Maybe not, but that would seem pretty strange to me. I mean, I guess there's some maybe weird situations where he maybe like is okay with the Fury and hopes to construct through it, but that seems really difficult. I think we're going to see a kill spell from Corey here.
Yeah. Checking something with the judge could be maybe one of the other options with Voidwalker, like the prismatic ending or something like that. But yeah, I think the Fury has to be at the front of the pack there.
I mean, I've also found that a surprising number of players don't really know what Voidwalker does. That is, they mostly played against it as a 3/2 shadow with, you know, a rest in peace attached, and aren't aware of exactly what happens with the sacrifice.
Yeah, worth noting that Voidwalker sacrifices to let you cast a card that turn, but other casting restrictions apply. So you can sacrifice it on your upkeep, but you would have to cast that Fury at sorcery speed still.
I'm surprised to see Corey let Ben on tap here. I'm not sure what it means. I mean, maybe his plan is to clean up the Fury itself with the removal spell, just like let his Emery get taken out, clean up the Fury, and hope to be okay from there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to. I mean,
Wait,
if you're doing it this way, okay, so he played the second Voidwalker, attacked with the first one, and now we get to leverage the Feign Death.
yeah, that does appear to be what happened. So this is pretty interesting. So I think what Ben is maybe thinking is like, well, look, I have this Feign Death. Corey knows it. I know it. And I really want to force the action. And I think that I will still get to Fury because I have 2 Voidwalkers this way. So like the odds that Corey can actually just untap and remove both of them are like pretty low. And there's a chance that this makes his life awkward. That is like you slow roll the Fury, then Corey can't really commit another creature very easily. Um, Although that last part's a little weird since Corey can obviously spend his mana on the Saga.
So Corey now gets to activate Emery, targeting the bauble in the graveyard. If you're Ben, do you fire off the spell bomb here, or do you wait until you can draw a card, but let Corey draw a card in the process?
I think I'd be inclined to wait, although it does depend a little bit on Ben's hand. Um, Mostly, I just think that I really don't want to get breached here is my priority, and I don't want to end up in a situation where, like, I don't know, my Voidwalkers get cleaned up and then I end up losing to like a bunch of things flashbacks. Maybe that's just too much to ask though, working through all the Voidwalkers. Like, I think that both players having one less card is maybe good for Ben. It's more just that, like, I think having the insurance of this spell in play is worth seeing him out.
Another line that Ben could have taken last turn is play the Voidwalker, then proactively play the Feign Death on the non-sick Voidwalker. If Corey kills it in response, well, you activate it in response, and you still burn the removal, you get the Fury, and then if he doesn't do it, well, now you have 2 Voidwalkers and a Fury, and force the issue even further. So lots of interesting choices on that turn. This one is interesting too, though, because now that bauble, it can be another card, or it can be another point of power and toughness for those constructs, which it seems like that might be Corey's best route to win the game at this point, right? It's just make some big boys and, and suit them up with the Shadowsphere.
Yeah, and I think Ben has to be afraid of that. He doesn't like on the board have a convenient answer to just massive constructs. He might have boarded in like these EEs or this ratchet bomb, something like that. But as it is, I'm pretty concerned. Um, yeah, I'm not sure how he gets out of this short of finding those cards. The Shadow Spear plus the big constructs is going to really do a number on him. It's just like, okay, let's think about what Corey will do in his turn, right? He can like end step make a construct, untap make a construct, tutor for a thing that makes mana, Mox, Amber, Drum, whatever. Shoot up the Shadow Spear to the non-76 construct and attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lifelinking damage. That's terrifying. Okay, so it looks like Ben is sending for 4 with his kind of pumped Voidwalker here. But leaving back the 3/2 Voidwalker, perhaps to cast a free spell this turn.
And does get to refuel now with the Seasoned Pyromancer, so that's a nice start. And this is where that Engineered Explosives that we mooted as a possible sideboard card would really come in clutch.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty backbreaking here if he found it, but either he didn't find it or he didn't find it plus a land. And so I think that was a pass from Ben, if I'm not mistaken. Could also just have some sort of like regular removal spell, like a Fatal Push or something, and just hope that, when Corey goes for this construct lane, he'll do that. I'm kind of wondering why the Void doesn't tap then now. Unless, wait, did he hit a removal spell off Corey's deck he's playing to cast? Like an unholy
Maybe. So yeah, the heat is under there. So now we have to think, does Ben have Delirium? So he has instant sorcery, land, and he can sacrifice the spell bomb if he needs to. So
Well,
yeah,
the Voidwalker's
potentially.
a creature. It itself puts creature in the bid,
Oh,
right?
well, okay, never mind. Yeah.
So I think that Ben is threatening to sack his Voidwalker and heat the construct. So if Corey suits up, Ben will just do that. Now the problem with this is like, okay, so that's nice and all. He is kind of letting the Emery run rampant in the meantime, right? Like the Emery can just recur this other bauble again. Corey will have a lot of like raw resources, but
Well, the other issue to now is, so there are 6 artifacts there currently. The Emery buys back a bauble, so that can be 7. And so then Corey can just try to suit up the construct that can attack, and there's not actually a great window for Ben to heat without forcing, like he can't force an additional commitment before he buybacks the heat. So yeah, so we're going to use a spell bomb now, draw a card, finds his moment there.
yeah, I mean, this is certainly reasonable. Getting a big yard, denying the Emery recursion, and that will keep the construct 6/6 so that Corey has to kind of risk it if he wants to attack or if he wants to force the action on the heat. And I'm honestly not sure Corey can afford to do that, right? Like tapping your other contract as a blocker to pay for this drum is extremely dangerous. Although I guess maybe because all of Ben's creature of shadow, maybe that doesn't matter too much. Because Ben is spending only 9 damage. Do you like just going for it here?
I think you go for it, because if you force the play on the heat, but that's a Voidwalker that would not be attacking instead. So yeah, I think this actually kind of saves life in a weird way.
Yeah, I see your point. It's sort of like you're blocking the Voidwalker that gets sacrificed, which is actually more damage than blocking the 2/2 Pyro that can attack. and that way you're not dead kind of regardless. And to be clear, I'm talking about dead because, well, I think it's a pretty legitimate concern. Um, if Ben has access to, oh, I'm sorry, wait, never mind. He's not playing that card. I thought that maybe there was risk of bolting out Corey, but actually Ben is playing a no bolt list, so never mind. The other scam list we looked at had both. Um,
I think the other issue too is if you let Ben untap with both Voidwalkers, then oh wait, hold on, did
so Corey did equip, and then Ben sacked and heated it.
okay,
That's what
okay.
happened.
Yeah, all good. So if you let both Voidwalkers untap and they just attack, well, that's a 2-turn clog. And if there's any removal spell for the thing that would pick up the Shadow Spear, well, now you're just dead on board suddenly. So I think just dealing with at least the first Voidwalker has a lot of appeal to it.
Hmm. Uh, Interesting. So let's see here. Wait, so sorry, you think that casting you like or dislike casting Fury?
Oh,
Is that
well,
maniacal?
I could be talked into it. I think. Let me see here. Yeah, so that thing you you mentioned earlier about people don't read Voidwalker and they don't know that it casts for free. We're testing that philosophy in the chat right now. You know.
Yeah, the chat is extremely perplexed by the fact that, and by the chat I mean mostly Jesse, is perplexed by the fact that Voidwalker casts for free. You do not pay. It costs no mana. So
To be fair, it is unclear what level Jessie is on. She does have a well balanced range, so really could be anything.
yeah, I don't think her range is quite this balanced, but maybe that's wrong. Okay, it does look like Ben
Anyhow,
Weinberg is opting for the simple, just heat the construct, not get fancy with the Fury. Reasonable play certainly. And now Corey doesn't have a large creature for his Shadow Spear, but on the other hand, Ben doesn't have that quick clock either. So now we're left for Corey to rebuild. But his rebuilding is pretty reasonable. He can crack a Bobble to draw a card, then he can untap target Emery with it. If Ben cracks the spell in response, well, he still has another Bobble to Emery with. And if Ben doesn't, then he's got his card draw engine going. So
we do want to take a brief moment to thank the 2,000 of you who are here in the chat right now. Phenomenal turnout. So it's that kind of support that helps make this all possible. Also, more direct support as well. You know, these streams are expensive to do. We have our sponsors, we have everything else, but direct support very much appreciated as well. But very pleased to have all of you here with us as we sit through this nail biter of a finals here.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an incredible game. You absolutely love to see it. Scam and Breach can sometimes play some great Magic, and it's really on display here. Oh, wow. Is this a Hardcast Fury?
It is.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. So Corey's drawn off the top, or perhaps off his bubble, the second and last copy of Fury he has access to. This completely cleans up Ben's board and is a pretty excellent play. Notably, Corey did end up committing both baubles that turn, so he will then get all of it exiled by the spellbomb. That's a little unfortunate for him. His Emery's now kind of turned off, but probably just the cost of doing business. If that's what it takes to find the Fury, then, so be it.
And consolation prize, next turn we're going to have a 4/4 double striking trampling lifelinker in play. So Fury and Shadow Spear, not a combination you get to see too often, but a pretty effective one when it does.
And I mean, look, I do think that Fury was kind of originally added to the Jeskai Breach sideboard in no small part to combat the Scam matchup. And given how popular Scam is, it's all of the Breach experts are currently playing a couple on their sideboard, and I mean, you're seeing why. It's just an incredibly effective card. It's castable under Blood Moon. You can evoke it. You can pay 5. It works any way you slice it, and really helps the Breach deck's kind of fair game plan.
Ragavan finally shows up, little late to the party here. And we get a brief live look in here on Legacy before. Oh, wait, no, just kidding.
All right,
Just
nope.
teasing you all a little.
So I think here what Corey's gonna have to do is to play his Teferi off the drum there. And this way he'll know if Ben has kind of any response killing the Fury before he has to commit mana to suiting it up. So if Ben just lets the Teferi resolve, then he'll like bounce the token or whatever, suit up, attack with Fury. If Ben responds by killing the Fury, then he can spend his mana doing something else. Ben just says, okay, yeah, I don't have anything. Tef resolves, and that I think is going to outdo it for Ben in this game. Fury equipped with the Shadow Spear is going to be extremely, extremely hard to beat. Because what happens now is, okay, first of all, Ben goes to 1 life point, and second of all, Corey goes to 20.
Yeah, it's all over, but the handshake, which, funnily enough, there it is. So, Corey Baumeister, 2-0's scam here in the modern seat. Brad did take a loss in Pioneer, so it falls to Noah Walker versus Marshall Arthurs. Two very experienced Legacy players. Noah, in his prime, I think, consensus best Delver, Blue Tempo pilot, whatever you want to call it, in the world. So, what a treat to get to see him play for the entire tournament on behalf of his team here in the Legacy seat. Before that, though, we're going to cut you to Anurag real quick, and then hopefully get some magic back before your eyes before too long here.
Wait, where's my? Oh God! Oops, I forgot. I think of all the scenes, my bad. Hey, wait, no, I'm here. I promise. You can hear me. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Oh, sorry. I just went to the bathroom like 5 minutes ago after 6 hours. I'm kind of a mess. The power went down. It came back up. We're all good here. I just want to give a big shout out real quick before we get back into Legacy. Players are taking a little bit of a bathroom break too, whatever it is. So there might be a delay in some stuff. But thank you to our sponsors. Seriously, thank you to our sponsors at Nerdbirds MTG, at Apex Gaming MTG also. Thank you to SpiceRack.gg. Thank you to the Goblin Trash Masters, and also Cool Stuff Inc. and Dragon Shield. If you haven't already, seriously, thank you. I have to let you know that they're great, because if you're enjoying the content right now, literally could not do it without them. So we're going to cut back to Legacy. Dom and Andrew, it's all you. See y'all in just a sec.
All right, so I guess we're going to be getting back to some Legacy action pretty quickly here. Yeah, so this is going to be, just to remind you, this will be a Dimir Death Shadow against Jeskai Control in the hands of Marshall Arthur. Dimir Shadow being highlighted by the Noah Walker, one of the best Legacy Tempo players in the world. I don't think that's really in contest. And it looks like we're going to be kind of right into the middle of a somewhat complex game here. So Noah, as far looks to be on 1 land, but he does have a Bowmaster and a 3/3 Orc. Marshall maybe resolving a Brainstorm, which is really tough in the face of a Bowmaster, if that's what's happening. Yeah, that does appear to be what's happening.
Yeah, you see a Legacy staple-ish there in Stuff the Storyteller, which went through this real craze a few months back, where this was one of the default ways to build your blue-white base control decks. Another card which really got punished hard by the advent of Orcish Bowmaster. Just you both the token and the card draw lining up very poorly there. That being said, Stuff of the Storytellers really nice alongside Orcish Bowmaster. And so you see that combination alongside each other in some of these more Espery control decks too.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to ask a silly question here. What happened to Noah's lands? Did he just, like, keep a landlight hand and, like, brick on a pond or something? Or, I'm just wondering how we got to this game state.
I'm going to take a quick scan of Marshall Arthur's control deck here to try and diagnose that. So,
Is Marshall playing Wasteland?
No, it isn't. So I think it's just a landlight hand. I think maybe there was a daze involved at some point, jumping back and forth. I think Noah had wastelands, that's for sure.
I see. So like no Noah kept a hand with like one land and like some wastelands. He used those wastelands to cast Spellmasters, then he exchanged off his wastelands, but then kind of bricked off on lands for a while, whereas Marshall kept getting his land drops, and we end up here. All right.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun coming to a match in the middle like this because you're arriving at the scene of the crime and you've got to figure out what happened. And I think we just about solved it here.
Yeah. So okay, Marshall is at one. That's the headliner here. So
Okay.
all bowmasters are lethal. All creature attacks are lethal. Noah
Yes.
is drawing very live to a lot of outs. On the other hand,
Reanimate. I'd say reanimate is a bowmaster's, which is lethal. So add that to the tally too.
yeah, and we know, of course, Noah doesn't know, but we know that Marshall doesn't have an actual counterspell, right? We know that his hand is a Shark Typhoon and Wrath, now just a Shark Typhoon. So Shark Typhoon means that he does have access to very strong card advantage here, because that will proc the Staff of the Storyteller, right?
Yes. So that the shark is a flying blocker, which lets the staff in turn create. Well, it's going to draw a card, and then so we get to fog for a turn. It's a little dicey here, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, this Murktide might be good enough. But if this game goes on too long, I just imagine the staff combined with the shark, combined with the tools and Marshall deck will eventually reach a state where Noah can no longer win. But we're definitely not there yet. We're a ways off, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, ponder post combat. Marshall. So being in Jeskai means he does have access to up to 4 Pyroblast in his sideboard. The problem is he's at 1, so he can't fetch for the 1 Volcanic Island as the only. I guess the Rao can try him too, but we need that one to be untapped. So that isn't going to do it. So just down with the conventional white answers like swords and I guess Teferi Time Raveler would do it as well. But Hinder Torak is going to take care of 2/3 of Marshall's remaining cards. So Blood Moon and a dead Flutterstrand hit the bin.
I mean, Marshall has to be happy about that. Like, I don't know exactly what his cards are, but those are not good cards.
No. So Caracas, Blood Moon, and is that another Shark Typhoon hiding in the back?
I mean, another Shark Typhoon is awesome here. The Blood Moon is a blank. The Caracas doesn't matter too much. But yeah, you cannot be sad about another chump blocker that essentially draws 2 cards. Right? Like the card he's playing here is 4 mana Divination, make a 1/1 flyer, which is very good. Like if that card just existed, it would be a pretty strong card. Maybe not a strong card in Legacy, but
Yeah, short of an answer to actual Murktide region, this is the best we can ask for. Plague Engineer, though. Okay, this makes a lot of sense against a card like Staff. You do still get the counter from the 0/0 token being created, but against Staff, against Comet, and some of these other cards, that's actually a surprisingly effective tactic. And here, it's a lethal attacker, which Marshall can't remove. So we're going to a game 3 here for all the marbles. This one game between Noah and Marshall will decide the entire tournament and decide which team, Team Corey Baumeister or Team Ben Weinberg, will hold the trophy when all is said and done.
Yeah, and I don't know. I sadly missed the start of that game, but honestly, what we watched was pretty great, so can't complain too much. And well, I'll just see how game 3 goes. Yeah, Ben Weinberg's deck, or sorry, the just the control list here is, I don't know, decently set up for this matchup, I would guess. I mean, I can't imagine having 4 Pyroblast is a bad thing, and these Blood Moons are close to knockouts if they resolve, I assume, right? Because
yes. Noah doesn't have Jerry's swamp cycling little subplot in there. So yeah, Noah is trying to cast his spells straight up, and if Blood Moon resolves, he's not casting any more spells. I can tell you that much. There is one Hydroblast in the sideboard, which between Pyroblast and that kind of back and forth, and then also Comet and Blood Moon, I think that will come in. There's some force negations and stuff. So I think Noah does improve a bit in sideboarding. You saw the hymns that game. We've got the Sauron's Ransom as well, a nice little card draw spell that pitches to force. That's going to come in. From Marshall's side, you have Pyroblast and Blood Moon, and I think that's it. But you don't need much more than that, honestly.
Yeah. And again, I know that historically, people have often touted the ability of these blue control decks to kind of go over the top of and exploit the tempo decks. But all I'll say is I think historically the amount by which these control decks have been favored is very debatable and often kind of lesser than it might appear. And there have been a lot of metagames where it was like the solution to Delver is this control deck, and then Delver wins every tournament. And I'm not sure that dynamic is still preserved with the addition of Bowmaster and the loss of iteration. Things have obviously changed some. But I also wouldn't be surprised if in 3 months we're saying like, wow, people thought Jeskai Control would beat Dimir Death Shadow. What fools.
Yeah, I think also you see these Grixis Delver decks kind of recalibrating and doing pretty well as well. So Delver is, it's not the colossus of the format that it once was, but it's still a very solid deck. And if you've been playing the deck for a long time, if you're Noah and you're maybe one of the best players in the world at playing that deck, then 100% you can play something in this space and feel very happy about it.
Yeah, and I also do think part of it is definitely that these control matchups can be really tricky to navigate on the Delver side. Requires a lot of precision, and when you do things, how you resolve your cantrips, just all the usual nonsense. And so some people might struggle in the matchup just because of that difficulty execution, but certainly Noah Walker will not be among those struggling.
No, and matchups like this are what appeal to so many people about Legacy, right? Like these highly interactive blue mirrors, lots of decisions back and forth on both sides, a lot of agency, for lack of a better word. You just get to see good, honest Magic, and then a dash of some of these like new, exciting cards as well.
Yeah, any agency simps in the chat?
Well, there are 2,000 people there, and thank you once again. So statistically, I imagine there have to be a few of them.
Looks like Noah's hand does not have the ability to produce colored mana, so I imagine he'll be shipping this one back.
Yeah, that one's a pretty easy call. There are spots where, like on 6 or whatever, maybe you keep some of the wasteland only hands, but no, for the most part, you got to give yourself the ability to play Magic, especially because these blue-white base control decks, one of their virtues is they have so many basics, and you see Prismatic Vista in Marshall's hand as a way to find basics that Wasteland itself often isn't that effective against them. So you can't even buy time that way. So down to 6 for Noah. Marshall had what looked like a pretty solid 7.
Yes, I think the 7 we saw was Vista, Ragnar Triumph, Caracas, Force of Will, Ponder. I think that's all the cards that I got a good look at there.
Yeah, so I would describe that as functional or fine. It's a little land heavy, perhaps, although again, versus Wasteland, maybe that cuts both ways. And then Force of Will, there's this weird dynamic with it in these blue mirrors in Legacy where each deck has a handful of these really high impact plays you have to fight over, and you will 2-for-1 yourself to force if you have to. But on these more minor exchanges, going down a card to force something is an easy way to just fall behind and lose a resource.
Yeah, so actually, I was wondering if you have a take on this. I know that the kind of historical Legacy wisdom is that generally in these fair matchups, you go down or board down entirely on your forces, right? But I was wondering how much you think that dynamic kind of still remains true, or if it's more like the Thoughtseize scenario where these days the cards are so strong that you end up wanting to leave in some or maybe even all of your forces.
I think the cards are just good enough that you have to lean towards keeping them in. You could maybe shave one or something, but if the opponent just puts Orcish Bowmasters on the stack, right, you need an answer for that. If that's forced, so be it. But if it's not forced, it has to be something else because you're not recovering from that. And that's true of so many cards in so many decks that I think that dynamic has really changed over the years.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I've long thought that the force dynamic was kind of the same as the Thoughtseize dynamic. I don't know. All right, this will at least give us a better look at the hand, which I appreciate at least. Okay, looks like that's a March of Otherworldly Light and a prismatic ending there.
Yeah, the March is interesting here because it's not a great removal spell and it's not really efficient at anything, but it's just another removal spell. And if you're trying to max out on as many of those as possible, then I guess it qualifies.
Yeah, so I wonder if Noah has any interest in taking the Ponder here and just stranding Marshall with like a bunch of removal spells, a force, and no real way to knit his hand together. Um, Especially given that like these two removal spells don't hit a significant portion of Nova's threats. That is to say, they don't hit Murktides, they only hit shadows.
Yeah, there we go. Marshall or Noah agrees with you. And so, yeah, but currently that force is stranded without a blue card. If Marshall draws a blue card, like let's say he just draws another Ponder, well, are you casting it? Like, what do you want? And B, are you happy leaving yourself defenseless without that blue card for the Ponder? So you see how the force can be potentially awkward, even though it's one of the more universal defensive tools. Blood Moon, though, off the top for Noah. Or for Marshall. That's a nice one coming down in a turn or two.
Yeah, and the toughest part is because Noah has just thought seized Marshall and had not seen a Blood Moon, he's kind of likely to play into it. That is to say, he's going to make whatever the most convenient play for him is, and knowing that Marshall didn't have much like one turn ago. And if that gets punished by the Blood Moon, I mean, kind of good beats.
And that's the other side of this forcible debate too, is that when you have these haymakers like Blood Moon, which if they resolve, you are either very ahead or you just win the game on the spot. Well, yeah, you'll throw as many cards away as you want in order to fight over those.
Yeah, and so here it looks like Noah has another Thoughtseize and a Force of Negation and a Bowmasters, if I'm not mistaken, right? So the question is, all right, you could just pass, hold up your Bowmasters, probably play it on their turn. It obviously lines up super nicely into their two removal spells. If they want to spend one of them on it and leave the one around, that's fine with you.
Oh, hello. Well, hold up. Here's Murktide Region. You can't prismatic ending that. It's pretty damn hard to March of Otherworldly Light it. And yeah, we didn't have a blue card for Force, so that's going to stick. And Marshall now needs an answer to that.
Yeah, because, but, so wait, but does Noah have a Force though? I thought he did.
Yeah, I thought we saw Force Negation. That could have just been the Murktide Region being shuffled around a bit. We'll see if we can get a clearer glimpse of that. But yeah, I mean, that could end up being a pivotal question.
Yeah, because if Noah can force, yeah, I think I think that's a Force negation. So yes,
it is, yeah.
So if Marshall slams Blood Moon here, not only is he not answering the Murktide, because he will also just get forced and owned, but I think it's pretty tempting to do in Marshall's seat because, well, maybe your plan for this Murktide is you play Blood Moon, you hope it resolves, and then if it resolves, you kind of get to spend all your mana to return, your opponent is going to spend their mana, and you'll use the kind of 4 turns you get to like figure something out. Because Marshall is at 20, the Murktide's only 4/4, right? He's not in imminent danger.
Yeah, and his deck is full of removal and also things that can buy a turn, like a Staff, a Shark Typhoon. So it seems unlikely that he would just die to the Murktide alone. So it is got to be tempting just to jam it here, especially if he picked up a blue card with his draw set, which his teammates have a sense of. We don't know just yet.
I mean,
the problem,
if the Blood Moon resolved, that is, say, if Marshall picked up a blue card, then I think Noah might be in a bad spot, to be honest.
Well, the other thing too is that Marshall he can get basic planes or he can get basic island. He can't get both, and so he's cutting himself off one color here, whatever he does. Now he does have quite a few planes and islands in the deck just to draw towards naturally, but it does restrict what he can do in the game. How deranged would it be, Andrew, to let the blood? Okay, it's probably deranged, but just I want to throw the possibility out there. Just I think you can't do it. The fact is that Force Negation doesn't work on your turn. Like Marshall can just wait until you outkeep swords or whatever if he draws it. I think puts that off the table, but it's tempting to me to just say okay and let it rip. But
yeah, but okay, hold on. So now the game state is Marshall's have colored mana ever again? Is that
correct.
right?
He can cast his Force of Wills and Force Negations, and not even days anymore because there's no they aren't islands. So that's it.
uh,
I think Anurag is just resetting the feed quickly, so we'll get you that back as soon as we can here.
okay.
Let us know in the chat if you can still hear us at this point, just so we have that information to work with.
On the assumption that we are currently audible.
There we go.
Great.
So we come back to a board where Motide has attacked. Marshall has drawn Stuff the Storyteller, and that token has chumped. And so now we have more ways to dig for answers, and then like a second Staff or something can keep that churning as well. But we're gated by colored mana, and we did that to ourselves, right? Like we cast the moon. So it's weird to say it's still anyone's game, but like we know what the stakes are at this point, right? There is one problem that this game and this tournament is going to come down to, and we are about to find out the answer to it.
Right. So, okay. Marshall's currently at 10, assuming the light are correct, which means this Murktide is a 3-turn clock, I believe. Now, in those, his outs from this spot are actually pretty limited because, well, cantrips don't play. Blue cards don't play. He pretty much needs specifically Pyroblast or Swords, right?
Yes.
So, okay, that's 8 outs. 8 outs is not that unlikely to find in 3 turns, but it's a lot harder if you don't get any additional looks from basics.
Right. And we have, so the Staff is another look, so you can fudge the count a bit. And there's also some backdoor outs, like if you draw an island when any cantrips that you've drawn in the meantime are online, or you draw another Staff to buy another turn. Things could get weird in that sense. The problem is Noah has picked up another Force Negation, which doesn't actually counter either Swords or Pyroblast if done at the appropriate time.
Oh my god.
I mean, I guess, okay, this technically qualifies. So do we have 3 white cards to toss into the void?
Apparently the
We
plan
do.
here is Mind Twist myself, kill your Murktide. Which, okay, unconventional, but looks pretty good.
Okay, Andrew, when is this happening?
Yeah.
It's very important when this is happening.
I think it's happening in Noah's Upkeep, but I'm not
Okay.
certain.
Okay.
Like, I think he passed into Noah's Upkeep and then did this. That's what I think happened.
So yeah, you see this resigned look on Noah's face. I think we're going to see a handshake here pretty shortly. There we go.
Wow.
Team Weinberg, Ben Weinberg, Marshall Arthurs, and I think we haven't got the name of their third just yet, but they are your champions here. No surprise, I think, if you said coming in, yeah, these two are going to win another team event. No surprises there, but slaying some true titans in the finals here. Brad Nelson, Corey Baumeister, and Noah Walker, all incredible players, maybe one of the favorite teams in the entire event. And both teams offered us some fantastic magic to watch over the course of today. So very grateful to them, very grateful to the 2,200 of you in there watching that dramatic conclusion there too.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight how, okay, I know that Noah played Murktide and then basically got really punished by Blood Moon plus Force Backup, but from Noah's perspective, he had just thought his opponent's hand, and he didn't see a Blood Moon or another threat there, and he didn't see a backup blue card for Force. So, like, okay, like, Marshall's 2 unknown draws perspective ended up being Blood Moon plus blue card, but, like, that's just unlucky. I don't know, it's a good beat. Like, I think Noah's supposed to make the play.
Oh, 100%. And even after that happened, like one of the worst case scenarios, he still had Marshall under a lot of pressure to do stuff. So great finish there for a great weekend of Magic. Very grateful to the other commentary pairs as well for carrying us through Saturday and the first part of Sunday too. Grateful to all of you out there for watching. A fantastic turnout as well. Grateful to our sponsors who you see on the screen there, Apex Gaming and the Goblin Trash Masters, among others, and very much would welcome your direct support to make all of this happen. Help Anurag do his thing. It's not cheap and it's not easy, so any support you can give will be much appreciated. And thank you to you, Andrew, for being in the booth with me. This was a lot of fun. Grateful to Anurag for giving us this opportunity. And do you want to sign us off, Anu?